What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
Over the past 3 months, the dollar and euro rates have managed to soar to 110 to 120 rubles and fall below pre-crisis values. Prices for new cars, alas, did not describe the same curve. They soared by tens of percent and remained there. A new car from neighbors. If you strictly need a car without mileage, your geography is very limited. Russia is a member of the Eurasian Economic Union together with Belarus, Kazakhstan, Armenia, and Kyrgyzstan. From these countries, a new car can be imported without spending on customs clearance. The sanctions imposed against Russia partially apply to Belarus. But in the rest of the countries there may be a shortage of cars. Firstly, the supply of some brands goes through our country. There is one representative office for several countries and it is located in Russia. Secondly, even in the absence of sanctions, there are still logistical failures which affect everyone. Thirdly, there are quotas allocated to countries. Other countries cannot drastically increase them because there is additional demand from a newcomer, Russians. Still, it is worth considering this option in detail. Look at the prices, contact dealers for availability of cars. Most likely, there will be one typical difficulty. Both in Russia and in other countries dealers prefer to negotiate the final price with the client in person, not in correspondence or over the phone. Perhaps they will get into your position. Or not, and then you will have to fly to the country. And it is not a fact that on the spot you will not find out that, for example, without add-ons for a considerable amount of money the car will not be sold. Jack T6 Pickup 2015 NV. But if everything works out, you can get a good deal. It can be especially successful with models that are locally assembled in neighboring countries. For example, in Belarus Geely Atlas Pro assembled their costs from 74,000 local rubles, 1.75 million of ours, and in Russia it will cost at least $1 million more. Or the Jack T6 pickup truck, from 1.93 million rubles in Kazakhstan, where it is produced, and from 2.42 million rubles in Russia. A new car from afar. Recently, there have been offers to sell new cars from the Middle East. These are predominantly SUVs which have never been officially sold in our country or have become unavailable due to sanctions recently. According to car dealerships engaged in this, you can save tens of percent, which in the case of expensive models is equivalent to several million rubles. This is possible because prices in the Middle East countries are lower than in Russia, and among the versions there are simpler configurations compared to those offered by our officials. Except that there are nuances in the scheme. The main one is the specification for hot countries. Do not be surprised, but heated seats and mirrors may not be at all of trifles. After the purchase, responsibly need to be responsible for the replacement of all technical fluids so as not to end problems in thrusts. Prepayment is most often asked in full. It will be problematic to refuse the car on arrival without financial losses. Sometimes the car is initially bought out in the name of a local resident, and there are risks that he will cheat. As in Belarus or Kazakhstan, you cannot go to the Emirates for a car personally. You will have to fully trust the intermediary. And be patient, because the delivery will take at least 30 to 40 days. What about used cars? Used cars have increased in price in a non-linear fashion. There are no recommended prices here. It's a completely free market. But there is a general pattern: the fresher the copy, the more painful it is to look at the price. The explanation is simple: sellers usually consider a new car with no mileage as a replacement. And their prices are a cosmos. So the owners are oriented on the official price lists. Or worse, they realize that the choice of dealers has reduced and asked for their 1-year and 2-year copies as for new ones. The geography of interests of those looking for cars with used cars has not changed: Europe, USA, Japan. In the latter you can find a lot of options at attractive prices. And Japanese auctions are traditionally trusted more than American ones. From the States, more chances to get drowned than from other countries. In the literal sense of the word, the influx of such cars on the market after the next natural disaster, a common thing. This is the opinion on the web, although not everyone is unlucky, of course. The Middle East has become more active. Belarus and Kazakhstan are more attracted by new cars. Korea was and remains an exotic destination for importing used cars, and in addition, its car companies have not joined the sanctions against Russia. Still, it is worth looking for interesting variants here. The equipment of the same Koreans can be much richer than those officially sold in Russia. In terms of body condition, cars from Korea are not as good as the Japanese. Minor scratches and defects may not be specified in the description at all. But copies with damaged power structure cannot be repaired and are scrapped, as well as cars after water procedures. An attempt to sell such cars is punished severely, up to criminal liability, so it is difficult to come across outright junk. Criminal or administrative responsibility for total and stranded mileage is in the U.S. and some European countries. In Japan, the appraiser at the auction is personally responsible for the document drawn up by him. However, no country in the world has managed to completely eradicate this criminal phenomenon. In this regard, the biggest risk is to buy a used car already imported into Russia for sale. Our car history check services do not know it and will not help you in any way. It is not known what the reseller did to it before selling it. Documents from a car dealership or auction, if you want, you can Photoshop. At least some confidence can give a link to the auction site with an archive of lots, if any. What to import? The rules for importing used cars into Russia have not changed for a long time. Cars up to 3 years old and over 5 years old are not profitable to import, as the rates of customs duties are high. The range from 3 to 5 years remains. This is optimal both in terms of fees and the condition of the car. After all, it has not yet had time to age. Customs clearance rates, as before, depend on the engine displacement. It is most rational to bring a car with an engine of 1.0 to 1.5 liters. You will pay €1.7 per cube. And, for example, for a 1.8 to 2.3 liter engine the rate is already €2.7. In the old days, a normally driving Golf class started with a 1.8 liter motor and business with 2.5. Now, in the era of supercharging and downsizing, even not insignificant cars of VW Tiguan or Passat class can drive decently with 1.4 turbo engine. Combined with the ruble exchange rate that has rolled back to acceptable values, it comes out attractively. It is prohibited to import cars of an ecological class below -€4 into Russia. More precisely, such a car can enter the territory without obstacles, but it will not be legalized for public roads. Unless, of course, you bother to get some documents confirming the ecological class. It is not excluded that this norm can be temporarily cancelled, since due to lack of components inside Russia they have already started to produce -€0 and -€2 cars. But there have been no official statements about this yet, so non-environmental cars are still prohibited. Finally, there is no more freebies with electric cars. For them they return mandatory customs clearance from January 1, 2022. The measure is aimed at supporting the local production of electric cars, which that don't yet exist in the wild and in the foreseeable future. Localized may be only Chinese models with rebranded emblems JAC IEV7S 2017 C. You will need to obtain a Russian electronic points for the imported car and pay the utilization fee. You can entrust these actions to brokers, or you can do them yourself. In any case, it is worth spending time and determining in advance the algorithm of actions, carefully understand the upcoming costs, so as not to face unforeseen expenses. There are enough calculators on the net to calculate customs duties, delivery costs and other expenses for cars of different ages and imported from different countries. Pitfalls: the first difficulty will be transferring currency abroad. Restrictions have now been somewhat eased, but the main thing remains: Russian bank cards do not work in Western countries. You will have to bring cash, for the issue and export of which there is also a limit, or get a foreign bank card, which is also difficult and not everywhere possible. In any case, you will lose out on all sorts of commissions. The sanctions moment is also tense. Formally, only official deliveries of cars are banned. The restrictions do not apply to private individuals. However, the European customs services are still unclear about how to proceed. Perhaps everything will go smoothly, but it is not excluded that all sorts of obstacles will be put in place, especially in the case of transporting expensive cars worth more than €50,000. However, difficulties may appear with cheap models. The imported cars are not adapted to Russia. We have already written about the heat-loving Arab versions above. But there are other nuances. For example, diesel engines for our country are mostly devoid of urea injection, while purebred Europeans will have it. Although it is not a big problem, both trucks and, for example, minibuses of the Stellantis Alliance assembled in Kaluga travel around Russia with urea. Many powerful models for our market are defortified to tax-favorable 249 horsepower. If you bring a version for another country, you will pay for 250 plus HP at the maximum rate. There will be nuances and with selection of spare parts. In publicly available catalogs may not be your modification, the risk of error with the part number increases. Of course, specific parts are unlikely to be in stock. This problem has existed before, and now it will be much worse. Prepare for a slow delivery. Logistic channels are working at the limit in the current crisis. Plus possible problems at customs due to uncertainty with sanctions restrictions. Do not forget about the criminal law of the market, where demand increases, fraudsters become active. And there is a lot of money involved. When choosing an intermediary firm, read reviews, carefully study all available information. And do not be lazy to get into the subject to understand the nuances of the forthcoming transaction. And one more thing, forget about the special programs of dealers and manufacturers. You will have to buy the car for cash or take out a consumer loan. And now the rates on the latter are biting, even 25% is not the limit, although in the old days you could get by with 10 to 11%. There are enough nuances, but with a thoughtful approach, the risks can be minimized. On the plus side, real savings and a wide choice of models. And for some people, the possibility of bringing a car that is rare in Russia, but not ruinous in terms of price and maintenance costs, plays a decisive role. In conclusion, bringing a car from abroad can be a smart way to save money, but it requires careful planning and consideration. By researching the right vehicle that meets your needs and understanding the potential challenges, such as import regulations and additional costs, you can make an informed decision. Remember to factor in all expenses, from shipping to taxes, to ensure that your savings truly add up. With the right approach, you can successfully navigate this process and enjoy the benefits of your new vehicle. Thank you for watching, and best of luck on your car buying journey.